Hey, what's going on? BonSwootch here. One of the biggest unsolved mysteries in Five Nights at Freddy's is the Midnight Motorist minigame from FNAF Pizzeria Simulator. The minigame gives us three main characters who remain unknown to this day: the orange guy, the couch potato, and the runaway. There are many theories as to who each of these characters might be, but no one has been able to provide a definitive understanding of Midnight Motorist yet. A common theory is that the orange guy is William Afton, who tries to go to a bar but is barred entry and then makes his way home to his son Michael. While this theory seems to hold water, it has some holes in it. I do believe this minigame follows William Afton as he returns home from somewhere. Somewhere in the source code this minigame is referred to as later that night, and with the weather matching the weather in the FNAF 2 minigame Take Cake to the Children, it is likely that this minigame directly follows the events of that fateful night. This is furthered by the wording of that night, seeming to imply that this night is important and almost historic. This is reminiscent to how Phone Guy refers to the bite of 87.
The bite of 87. Yeah.
In the first FNAF game. We can also connect these two mini-games by the similarities in the cars in each game. While the drivers of the cars appear different, both vehicles are purple. Due to these similarities and the reference to the night Charlie died, we are led to believe that the orange guy is William Afton. Now, what is the significance of Junior's, the bar that William tries to gain entry to at the beginning of his drive? Aside from his reckless and high-speed driving, there's nothing that indicates William is an alcoholic or a drinker at all. And then there's the line said by the green guy standing in front of Junior's, who denies William entry and says, "Come on, you know you can't be here, don't make this harder than it has to be." This indicates to me that William should know he's not supposed to be here, and yet he is here. What makes Junior so special to William that he shows up knowing he's not welcome? Surely if it was just a bar, he would find another bar or pick up a bottle at the liquor store. So why does William go to Junior's knowing he won't be allowed in and then head home without getting a drink? Did he change his mind? Or were his intentions at Junior's something else? What if William went there to see someone who works there and someone who's made it clear to William that they don't want to see him? That would explain why William shows up knowing he's not allowed. He's desperately trying to see this person and hoping he can somehow get through. This also explains the demeanor of the green guy at the door. Come on, you know you can't be here. The green man seems to lack enthusiasm when seeing William. He doesn't appear to be acquainted with William. He's simply sticking up for a coworker. Don't make this more difficult than it has to be is the green guy asking William not to escalate the situation so it doesn't get out of hand. This isn't a guy who saw William get hammered and upset the staff, where the green guy would reflect this in his tone. Furthermore, the ultimate guide refers to Junior's as a restaurant, so what would William have done to be denied entry? And why does William choose to embarrass himself instead of finding another restaurant to go to? What makes this restaurant so special to him? This isn't any old restaurant that William's been banned from. This is the workplace of his ex-wife. Notice how there are no other cars at the Afton house, but there are 5 cars at Junior's before William arrives. 3 identical blue cars, presumably customers, a red car belonging to the green guy, and a teal car, Mrs. Afton's. How can I be sure that this is Mrs. Afton's car? By looking at a color wheel and identifying the complementary color of a car, you can identify its owner. First, we can check this with our controlled variable. William is yellow and he's driving a purple car. Now we can apply this formula to the rest of our cars and solve for our unknown. The red car would belong to someone green, and the teal car would belong to someone purple. A purple guy and a purple woman? Who else would William be desperate enough to see knowing he's not supposed to be near? In 1983, William launches Afton Robotics and creates the Funtime animatronics, or at least Circus Baby. While William is working to get Circus Baby's Pizza World open for business, Elizabeth meets her shocking demise. Following Elizabeth's death at Circus Baby's Pizza World, William is unable to explain to his wife what happened to their daughter at his establishment. The only explanation would be the truth, and there's no way to say that. Mrs. Afton begins to lose trust in William, and he becomes distant, hiding in his bunker, unable to cope with what he'd done. This causes Mrs. Afton to leave William, moving out of the house and making it clear to him that she does not want to see him. Midnight Motorist takes place not long after Elizabeth's death, which explains why William is still trying to see his wife and why Michael sticks up for his brother. Up until this point, Michael and his brother got along well. This also explains why Elizabeth's room is absent in the FNAF 4 minigames. She had recently been living there, playing with her mangle toy, but has since gone missing. Her room has been left untouched since she was last there not long ago. In sister location, hand unit refers to the closing of a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as the driving force behind the creation of another contender in children's entertainment. If this meant Circus Baby's Pizza World had not been created before a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza had closed, this would mean Elizabeth couldn't have died before the crying child. However, after mentioning the closure of a Freddy Fazbear's location, Hand Unit describes this contender as an entertainment venue where robotic entertainers are rented out for private parties.
Due to the massive success, and even more so the unfortunate closing of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment. Unlike most entertainment venues, our robotic entertainers are rented out for private parties during the day.
That means that Circus Baby's entertainment and rental was not opened until the closure of a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and Circus Baby's Pizza World had already been closed at that point. This explains why the animatronics exist. They were intended for Circus Baby's Pizza World, but they were left unused after the location shut down. Then when Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closes after presumably the bite of 87, the animatronics are repurposed as rentable entertainers. When William gets home, his phrasing when looking for the crying child seems to indicate that his behavior is fairly new. William says, "I told you not to close your door," upon approaching the crying child's room, seemingly reminding him of a new rule that's been set in place. When William cannot get into the crying child's room, he heads outside saying, "I'll find a way in from outside." This sounds like the first time that William has taken it this far, which only furthers the point that this is new behavior for the crying child, a change in attitude most likely caused by the death of his sister and the absence of his mother. Now outside of the crying child's room, William notices that his bedroom window is shattered. Surprisingly, William remains remarkably calm to find out the same person he angrily demanded not to shut his door had vandalized part of his home. I think William remains calm because at this point he was experimenting with the nightmare animatronics on the crying child. He sees the crying child's actions as a direct response to his testing and views this as a valid response. What else would cause a young kid to smash his window and run away at midnight during a rainstorm? If the crying child was being relentlessly tormented by animatronics that ran rampant through his house, it would be understandable if he did something as drastic as smash his window and run off. And being right after Elizabeth's death, William wants to make sure that he doesn't make the same mistake again. He told Elizabeth not to play with Circus Baby. She didn't listen. William decided to take extra precautions going forward. If his kids won't listen to what he says, they'll have to learn it themselves. Rather than tell his son not to go near his animatronics, he makes sure he is so terrified that he wouldn't want to be anywhere near them. There is also evidence in sister location that William is the voice behind the crying child's Fredbear plush, that his room is being monitored. This seems to indicate that the crying child is being manipulated by William. Dealing with his trauma and being at his most vulnerable state, Michael Afton begins to pick on his younger brother, finding it an easy way to make friends. Due to his father's experimentation, Michael sees his younger brother become a frail, easily frightened wuss, and he takes out his emotions on him because it's too easy. His brother, known widely as the kid who cries all the time, has become an easy target for Michael because of how little confidence he has. At some point, supposedly after the events of FNAF 1, Michael becomes subject to the nightmare testing as well. We know this because in the gameplay for FNAF 4, when the player is defending himself against animatronics, you can hear a phone call from the first game playing in reverse, showing that the player has heard it before. We also see Michael draw Nightmare Fredbear in the Ultimate Guide, showing that he's both the player in FNAF 1 and FNAF 4. Following his sister's death, Michael copes by picking on his younger brother. When he takes it too far and gets his younger brother killed, his attitude changes again, realizing that by coping with his sadness after Elizabeth's death, he caused the death of his last sibling. This sets him on a path of righteousness where he seeks to put them back together. This is stated in sister location when Michael says to his father, "I put her back together just like you asked me to."
Father, I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to.
And in FNAF 4, when the Fredbear plush, likely William, says to the crying child he will put him back together. Michael and William not only look alike, but their characters are alike. Both of them accidentally kill their family members and vow to put them back together. The final unanswered question in Midnight Motorist is the unmarked pile of dirt. While some theorize that it may be a grave, presumably for Mrs. Afton, or a hiding place for one of the Twisted One's animatronics, The ultimate guide refers to it simply as an unmarked pile of dirt. This isn't very specific, and it doesn't necessarily rule out that it could be a grave. But what if this is very specific? What if the name isn't vague at all, but it's rather very specific? This would mean that it's not a grave at all. It's simply a pile of dirt. A pile of dirt covering a box. That being the box from the FNAF 4 custom night that William buried somewhere along the road to his house. A place not easily discoverable without a car. Seemingly, his secret is safe from his 2 sons. What would William be hiding in this box? The blueprints for the Funtime animatronics. The truth that William was directly responsible for Elizabeth's death. His negligence and wickedness all contained within a few pieces of paper, something best left forgotten for now.